Well, look at what we have here. Some more narrations for you, our fabulous R-Space family. Now, the topic today. We got some suspicious sounding folk right here. So let's see what we got going on and see if we can help or what the community thinks. First up, I, 30 male, think my best friend, 29 male, likes my wife, 30 female. Or I might be paranoid from a previous failed relationship. No. My wife and I have been married for almost 2 years, and we were together for 5 years before that. Before I met her, I was involved in what I thought was a committed relationship, but the girl ended up cheating on me, and I was devastated. I've had trust issues since then. My wife now is a naturally shy person, so it took her a long time to get comfortable around my friends. My best friend, Chad, was really keen on getting to know her, but she felt it was normal because he's my best friend of 10 years, and my wife is a big part of my life. I really wanted them to get along. Even though my wife was around Chad the most compared to my other friends, she was still a bit reserved around him. She talked to him very little when the three of us would hang out, but he told me he liked her while my other friends would wonder if she was okay. Shortly before we got married, Chad was strangely excited about meeting her parents. After the wedding, he hugged her for the first time. Very tightly. Fast forward to a year into our marriage. My wife finally gets comfortable with Chad, and they end up talking and texting like normal friends. Chad tells me he really likes this she finally opened up to him and asks if it's okay that he talks to her. I said it was cool and that I've always wanted them to be friends. But the truth was, I was jealous. My wife sensed it and ended up fighting over it. To settle this, my wife asked Chad if he liked her romantically. He said, "Boy, admit I was excited to find out you were a cool and funny person after all these years of wondering what you were all about. But I don't see you that way, and I only see you as Paul's wife. I promise, I'm not the Paul in this story." My jealousy went away after that until I found out their conversations were somewhat inappropriate. While it wasn't about having sex with each other, it still made me uncomfortable. He would choke with her, and she would say, "Kiss my ass," to which his response would be, "I'm actually into that." One time, she asked Chad if his ex-girlfriend took nude pictures. She's a photographer. And he asked my wife, "Why do you ask? Do you plan to spice up the Christmas cards this year?" Paul told me about it so you can tell me. At that point, I confronted him about what my wife told me and asked him to tell me the truth on what he really feels towards her. His response was, "She's a cool girl, and I was only joking around with her. You're my only true friend. I'm certainly not going to say or do anything that would ruin our friendship. I would rather we don't be friends than hurt you." I do want to note that he does make sexual jokes even with me. It is part of his humor. But to do that with my wife did feel wrong to me. I accepted his honest reply and tried to move on from that point. However, I still feel like something could happen between them. Like I said, I was cheated on before, and I do have major trust issues. And I feel bad for saying this, but I'm now relieved when my wife decides to stay home instead of hanging out with me and Chad. But that also tells me that she probably senses something as well and is purposely keeping a distance. So my question is, am I overreacting to Chad's natural willingness to get to know her and his sense of humor? Or am I right to think that something could happen between them if they get too close? What can I do to allow them to be friends without it crossing the line? Should I trust Chad? Woo, dicey question. Don's Cube says, "This isn't about Chad or trusting Chad at all. This month, it is Chad. Next month, it's James the dry cleaner that develops a witty rapport with your wife when she picks up the clothes weekly. And next year, it's Larry the butcher who keeps suggesting special cuts of meat for her date nights with you, wink wink. You don't trust your wife because you are making her pay for the transgressions of your former significant other. This is inherently bad behavior on your part because you will forever be looking for proof where only your insecurities will find it. Don't drag her and your marriage into the hell pit of your insecurities. Get yourself some help with those insecurities, or you will kill the chances of continuing a quality relationship with your wife, or any future significant other for that matter." Lifelong Noob, love that name, says, "He was totally direct with her in a private conversation where he would have had the chance to confess to liking her, that he sees her only as your wife. And this during a conversation where you and your wife were literally trying to set him up to look bad. I cannot think of any response he would give that would better prove his character than that. You guys, on the other hand, look kind of like jerks for setting him up like that. Sounds like he's the one who should be worried about trusting you. Also, are you so focused on whether you should trust only him? As if only the guy has any agency in this kind of thing. What the F? Do you trust your wife? If yes, it doesn't matter who she's friends with. If no, leave her. But honestly, from what you've said here, it sounds like you're poised to ruin a perfectly good marriage and a perfectly good friendship with your own insecurities. My advice is, don't do that. Well, that came across pretty straightforward. Let's hope the next one comes out just as easy. My boyfriend's, 29 male, best friend's wife, 23 maybe female, behaves inappropriately with him, and I, 28 female, don't know how I should handle it. Do you guys follow all that? Boyfriend's 29, his best friend's wife is 23, and the OP is 28. All right, let's get to the story. I'm so sorry for this wall of text, but I want to provide as much info as possible. My boyfriend and I have been together for approximately a year and a half now. Things have been going well, and I believe we'll be together for quite some time. Now, my boyfriend has a best friend he's known about 2 years, and he's married. I'll call him John, and his wife, Jane. And when my boyfriend started hanging out with John more frequently, he had just broken up with his previous girlfriend. My boyfriend, his roommate, John, and Jane all hung out together all the time. During this time, John was cheating on Jane with a coworker. Jane confronted him about it a few months later, and then confessed to her own infidelity. They're now trying to have a child despite not seeming to be very fond of each other. Whatever, not my business, but it's somewhat relevant later on. Now, about 5 months after my boyfriend and I started dating, I finally got to meet John and Jane. John was very sweet and pleasant. Jane refused to give me the time of day. I tried several times to make conversation with her, and she wasn't having it. I really wanted to make a good impression on them, so it was weird to me that she seemed to dislike me before I had even met her. Whatever. I brushed it off as maybe she and John had a fight and she wasn't up to socializing. Nope. Turns out she just didn't like me. Every subsequent time we hung out with them, she barely looked my way and made every effort to exclude me. This was incredibly uncomfortable for me. When we would part at the end of the night, she would hug my boyfriend goodbye and get in her car without saying a word to me, while John stayed behind to say goodbye to both of us. I told my boyfriend how uncomfortable it made me, and then I didn't know what I had done, but I did not want to hang out with them anymore if I was going to be purposely excluded by her. He confronted her, and these were the reasons she gave. 1. She didn't like how long it took them to meet. That's on my boyfriend, not me. We also tried twice to make plans to meet them, but both times John canceled saying Jane didn't want to go anymore. 2. She's got an overall bad vibe for me, and I wasn't very nice to her the first time we met. Yeah, I wasn't nice. 3. She didn't like how long it took me to kill the baby. She and her husband haven't had success getting pregnant, and it's weighed heavily on her. I got pregnant while on birth control and agonized over getting an abortion, though I finally did. Regardless, none of her freaking business, and I hate that she knows about it when my closest relatives do not. 4. She told a co-worker about me and discovered said co-worker used to be an ROTC with me. I was never an ROTC, but the Army. And that I had a reputation for giving out BJs like they were going out of style and hooking up with my instructor. A couple of things. This coworker would only know me by my last name if she was in the military with me, which means she would have had to show her my picture. Freaking weird. But also, I only dated one guy who I ended up marrying. We separated a few years ago, and if she meant ROTC and not the Army, someone is lying. My boyfriend stood up for me as best as he could, and she said she would try to get over it. I wanted to make a point to say she has never been overly mean or nasty to me. Just essentially acts like I'm not there. Though she's gotten better about that. Hugs hello and goodbye. Now when she talks to my boyfriend, she constantly addresses him as sexy or good looking, especially in texts, which is odd and off-putting to me, but it's words, so I let it go. But she's quite touchy with him and often likes to be near him. I notice in photos when I'm not there, she is always next to my boyfriend. We went out a couple weeks ago to a club, and I stepped out for some air. When I came back in, she had her arm around my boyfriend, stroking his chest and running her hands through his beard, and her husband was right there. Her husband has confirmed her crush on my boyfriend and doesn't seem to care. I was livid, but they were driving us home, so I confronted my boyfriend about her touchy-feely behavior, and he said, "Yeah, I noticed that." I told her to keep her in check and did my own thing. Now, 2 weeks ago, I was telling my friend about all this, and she asked me to show her some pictures. So I pulled up the pictures folded on the computer to show how they're always next to each other. While looking, I found a picture she had taken of her cleavage on my boyfriend's phone, from well before he and I started dating. What the F, right? Now guys, I absolutely trust my boyfriend, and I 100% believe nothing is going on with them, nor has anything ever happened. I think this is 100% her. I've simply had it. I don't feel comfortable with him going out with the two of them when I'm not there, as I've seen how she behaves when she sees I'm not around. I confronted my boyfriend and asked him to establish boundaries with her since her husband doesn't seem to care, and he says she's not that flirty. Truth be told, we only hang out with them about once a month, but it's to the point where I don't even want him to hang out with them at all. The situation makes me so uneasy and uncomfortable. She's completely disrespecting our relationship. I forget to mention she sent him a link to an article about why some relationships are destined to fail in regards to our relationship. I'm not one for confrontation, but I have no problem telling this girl what's what. I just don't want to cause a rift in his friendship. At the same time, though, it's causing issues on ours. And I honestly think my confronting her won't change her behavior, as I feel she does this to upset me. I don't know what's wrong with this girl. I get along so well with everyone, and I make a very conscious effort to not have toxic people like this in my life. I don't want to force my boyfriend to choose between us, because he shouldn't have to. But I also think her behavior needs to change. Any advice? First response from Logic called. If you have told your boyfriend exactly how you feel and he hasn't done anything about it, then it's just as much his fault. How does he feel about the attention he's getting? Do you think he likes it? How does he respond when she is being touchy-feely with him, or when she calls him sexy or flirts with him? Can he see what she is doing and how it is affecting your relationship? This seems incredibly dodgy to me, and I think that you should ask your boyfriend more about it. Specifically things like what I'm asking you if you don't know the answers. If he is letting her give him this attention knowing how you feel about it, that is just as bad as reciprocating it in my opinion. I would definitely be asking him, with him knowing exactly how you feel, why he is letting it continue and therefore leaving you feeling bad. I hope this helps. OP comes back with, good points. I do think he likes getting the attention, though I don't think it's specific to her. He likes feeling admired, I've noticed. He also claims to be naive about the whole thing, and supposedly had no idea she was interested in him, which I find questionable. I know that he doesn't reciprocate it at all. I think at this point, they all just say, that's how Jane is. Except she's only like that with my boyfriend. Her husband has also said inappropriate things to me, which, even in jest, I found rather shocking. My boyfriend didn't seem to find much of an issue with that either, stating, that's how John is, which upset me a bit. I think my boyfriend thinks I'm being insecure and overreacting, but I know for a fact that if the roles were reversed, my boyfriend would be furious. I mean, I had a shirtless picture of a male celebrity on my phone which he saw and became very upset about. And I once said, Benedict Cumberbatch's voice is my favorite thing in the world, and he had a fit. Hypocritical, right? Not to mention ridiculous. I don't think I've done a great job at standing up for myself, and my boyfriend is very easily manipulated by these people for some reason. I want to be strong, but I also don't want to be bitchy and demanding. Logical replied back with, I think that everyone likes being admired, but I think that the attention you give him should be enough for him, and if it's not, it's going to destroy your relationship. How do you feel about him wanting attention from other girls in general? Do you feel the same way about accepting attention from other boys? Saying that that's how Jane is really is no excuse for her behavior, no matter if it is just with your boyfriend or with other people too. I can see how your boyfriend saying that would upset you. If it upset you, I think you should have asked him why he feels like that and let him know how it makes you feel and why. Your boyfriend is probably acting like you were being insecure and overreacting because he likes the attention, and he wouldn't want you to feel like you were right to feel that way about it, because that would be admitting that what Jane is doing isn't acceptable, and that's actually a big deal. It surprises me that he didn't get upset when John said inappropriate things to you, but he got upset of the shirtless picture of the celebrity and your comment about Benedict Cumberbatch's voice, especially because him and John are good friends, and John saying that to or about you is disrespecting both you and your relationship with John. I don't know what he actually said, so it's hard to say for sure, so this is based off the way you made it sound. I would definitely not be worried about being bitchy and demanding. If you don't tell him exactly how you feel about this whole situation, it'll just keep continuing. You'll feel even worse, and it might lead to further problems in your relationship. Tell your boyfriend exactly how you feel and what you want to happen from this, and see how he deals with it. Make it sound like this is very serious and important to you, so he takes it seriously and doesn't brush it off, or nothing will happen from it. I really hope this helps. Sorry it's so long, but I had a lot to say. DOP replied back again with, I really appreciate you taking the time to give me a solid reply. Really, it means a lot. It definitely bothers me that he feels like you would need outside attention when I supply him more than I think anyone could ask for. I certainly don't allow anyone to behave toward me in a way that I feel would make my boyfriend uncomfortable, And that's what really irks me about all this. I instantly shut those guys down. I feel like he doesn't respect my feelings about this situation at all because even if he felt like I was being dramatic, the fact that it bothers me should be enough for him to do something to assuage my concerns. Maybe you're right, though. By chalking it up to me being emotional and insecure, he doesn't have to admit her behavior is okay. And the comment that John made toward me was basically that he wanted to grope me. It was said as a joke, but it was off-putting. If my boyfriend had made a remark like that to Jane, or I had made a remark like that to John, I don't think either of us would see it as okay. But my boyfriend seems to have a hard time putting this all in perspective. I'm hoping to garner a few more comments, and then I plan to simply let my boyfriend read what everyone has to say and go from there. I know the support I'm getting both here and from friends, family, and as well as my boyfriend's brother is really bolstering. I feel confident I can stand up to him about this issue now and let him know how serious I am about this. One last comment from Logic called, "You're welcome. I appreciate you considering what I've had to say and responding. I totally agree with everything you've said. That sounds like a good idea, and I hope that it works for you and he understands your side of things more."